Because you always want to come here. What happened, baby? Alright, sit down. Hey everyone, my name is Malika and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my video. Once again, this video is actually going to be all about preparing for your hip replacement surgery. Now, I do have some people that follow me that maybe already have their hip replacement surgery, but I also do have some people that follow me that are preparing and at stage 4 and already have their surgery date set, and they're about to have their surgery maybe like in a month or 2. So I want to do this video because no one told me what I had to prepare for before my hip replacement surgery, and I basically had to learn along the road, going through my first surgery, my second surgery, up to my third surgery. I finally had got it somewhat down pat what I needed to do and know to prepare for my hip replacement surgery. Now, some of these tips are gonna kind of be for people with posterior hip replacements, but I'll mention it when I get to that tip. So let's get straight into this video. So my first tip for preparing for your hip replacement surgery is make sure that your house is clean and clutter free. I say that because you don't want anything in the way when you get back home from your surgery. You will be using a walker, so you want to make sure all your areas are clean and clutter free so that when you are moving around with your walker, you won't be bumping into anything or tripping over anything. So you want to make sure that your house is clean and clutter free. You don't have things lying all over the place because it's going to make it hard for you to get around your house. So that's my first tip. My second tip is if you have any pre-surgical appointments, make sure you do that maybe at least a month or 2 before your surgery. Now, not everyone's going to have pre-surgical appointments. I had my pre-surgical appointments really because I have sickle cell anemia, so they had to do a whole bunch of tests before they sent me into the operating room. So a few of the pre-surgical appointments that I had to do was a bone density test, a pulmonary test, a ophthalmology test, which I'm not sure why, but I had to do that, chest x-ray, echocardiogram, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, what else, blood test, because I did get a blood exchange before my surgery, so they had to make sure they had my right blood type, and echocardiogram, EKG, they had to do that. So I had to do a whole round of tests before they even approved for me to do the surgery. Now, you may not have a bunch of pre-surgical tests to do, even if it's just one test, like the pulmonary test. I believe that's the one for your lungs, just so that the anesthesiologist, so that they would know that your lungs are strong when they put you to sleep. So make sure if you have any pre-surgical appointments, make sure you do it a month or 2 before, because with me personally, it took me, when I was scheduling my appointment, each appointment was maybe like a month away. Like they made me wait a month to, actually go in and do the test. So you don't want to wait too late and then, they don't have any appointments open available or whatever the case may be, and they might have to delay your surgery because you didn't do your pre-surgical appointments, your tests. So make sure you have all your pre-surgical appointments set and ready to go so you're ready for your surgery. So my number 3 tip is to find out your after surgery arrangements. And when I say that, I mean you're going to have a choice to either go home after your surgery or you can't go to rehab. Now, you have to make sure that if you go home, you have someone that will be there to help you. If you don't have anyone to help you, do not go home because you will need help. Like if you go home by yourself, I'm pretty sure you're going to hurt yourself or something may go wrong. So go to rehab where they're going to send you to a rehabilitation center and they'll have nurses on site for the first, I don't know how long they'll keep you. They probably keep you for 2 to 3 weeks. And then depending on how well you're doing, then they'll send you home. But find out what you want to do before you go into your surgery. So make sure if you are going to go home that you do have someone reliable to stay with you for at least the first 2 weeks that will help you out. But if you don't have that, I would suggest you probably go to rehab. You could discuss that with your doctor, but just make sure you find out your arrangements. So my number 4 tip is to get all your hip equipment before your surgery. Now I do have a video already where I talk about all the gadgets and devices that I use for my surgery. So I'll link that down in the description bar so you guys can see what I got. But make sure you get all your hip equipment, meaning your shower bench, your toilet razor, your reacher, the stick reacher, the sock aid. Just make sure you get your hip equipment before you have your surgery, because you don't want to come out of surgery and you need the ice pack and you don't have any ice pack in your house. I mean, there are alternatives that you can do when it comes to ice pack, but let's say the toilet razor. You can't, I'll say this is where it comes in for posterior hip replacement and anterior hip replacements, because both of those have different restrictions. So for posterior hip replacements, you can't sit down lower than 90 degrees. So you need to have a toilet razor. And you don't want to have your surgery and come home and then you don't have that and you need to use the bathroom and you're running around panicking, looking everywhere for a toilet razor. Have those things ready and set before your surgery. It'll be a less headache. My next tip, this is kind of, like I said, it's just going to be less headache. Try and do your grocery shopping before you have your surgery. I know by time now you're probably going to be at stage 4 and you can hardly walk, but if you have a friend or a family member that can help you just do some grocery shopping before you have your surgery, that would be great. I mean, if they want to do it after you have your surgery, that's up to you guys, but it's less headache. The more stuff you have prepared before your surgery, the less headache it will be for you and the person that's helping you. So my next tip is to, if you have pets, figure out what you're going to do with your pets, because the only reason why I say that is because walking your pets and feeding your pets is going to be difficult. So you're not going to be able to do too much walking. You don't want your pet dragging you or doing anything that could jeopardize your surgery. So you want to make sure you have someone that will be able to walk your pets for you and feed them, because feeding them goes for the posterior hip replacement surgeries. That's the one that I have, because I couldn't bend down, like I said before, 90 degrees. I couldn't put their food down on the ground. So I did have someone, here to help me take care of my pets. So if you have pets, just make sure there's someone out there that's willing to help you with your animals, whether it's walking them, feeding them, whatever they need. Make sure you have someone to help you, or figure out what kind of arrangements you can do to what kind of arrangements you have for your pets, whether they have to stay at a sitter, whatever the case may be. Just figure out some arrangements for your animal. So my next tip, it could kind of go for when you're already with your vascular necrosis, but speak to if you're working and you're having these pains from the vascular necrosis and you're still going to work, kind of discuss it with your boss or your supervisor. If you're working and you're in a lot of pain, maybe they could switch out your position so that maybe you can do something where you don't have to be on your feet too much. If you already have a job where you don't have to be on your feet much, then that's great for you. But if you are on your feet a lot, make sure you speak to your supervisor. Hopefully they'll switch out your position and give you a desk job where you can sit down. And you can also discuss with your supervisor, about your surgery and maybe when you'll be coming back. I know that could vary, because some people, they'll recover within 3 weeks, some recover in 3 months, 6 months. So recovery is very different with everyone. So just keep that open communication with your boss or your supervisor. So my next tip is to pack your hospital bag. Now, I was kind of leery about putting this as a tip, because really, from my experience, I found that you don't even really need anything to carry to the hospital. The only thing I would suggest is, I stayed in the hospital for a week. Some people stay for a day, some people stay for 2 days, 3 days. It kind of depends on how you are and what your surgeon says. But the most I'll say is carry a book with you, or some headphones where you can watch a movie or listen to some music, so you won't be too bored. But when it comes to packing clothes or anything like that for the hospital, don't even worry about that. They have everything there for you. After your surgery, you're not even going to care to wear your own clothes, so don't worry about that. Just take something that may be a little bit more entertaining for you. Puzzles, maybe crossword puzzles, a book, some music to listen to, or maybe you can watch a movie on your phone or whatever the case may be. But that's another tip that I'll put in there. So my next tip is buy clothes that are 1 to 2 sizes bigger. than your regular size. Because when you come out of surgery, you're not going to be able to wear tight fitted clothes. You don't want anything to put too much pressure on your incision. You're also going to be swollen, so I would suggest wearing somewhat a bigger clothes. I wore sweatpants 1 to 2 sizes bigger than me, but they had elastic bands, like what do you call it, like an elastic tie string. So not elastic tie string, they had a drawstring, sorry. So I was still able to tie it tight enough where it hugged my waist, but it was still baggy on my hips. So that's something that I would suggest. Buy clothes that are roomy and comfy and not tight and hugging your incision and the surgery site too much. You don't want that. You don't want it rubbing on your, your cut or your staples or whatever it is, because after your surgery you may be leaking still. I did experience that after my first surgery. I was still leaking and had some fluid coming out. So just wear something baggy. Don't buy really nice clothes that you're not really going to care about, because sometimes it can get messy. But yeah, my tip is to just buy clothes that's about 1 to 2 sizes bigger than your actual size. And my final tip, and I think it's kind of important because after the surgery you're going to find yourself in the house for quite some time and you may experience cabin fever. But before you have your surgery, I know you're going to be in a lot of pain already, and I know it's going to be difficult to walk, but try to get outside and do something that you like to do. Whether it's just going out to dinner or maybe going to the movies or sitting down in the park, just try to get out and do something that you like to do, because you're going to be in the house for quite some time and you're not going to be able to go outside and do everything that you like to do right away. So just get to do something that you enjoy to do right before your surgery. So those are my tips to preparing for your hip replacement surgery. If you're someone out there that has had a hip replacement already and you maybe did something that I didn't mention before you had your hip replacement surgery, comment it down in the comment box below. It could definitely help out someone out there that's about to have their surgery soon. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Please like, subscribe, and support, and I'll see you guys next time in my next video. Bye.